Hi, I'm Monifa Bandele, and today I am the face of America. Well, we are really lucky. We have a champion that won a seat in Congress. She took over the seat of Newt Gingrich, and her name is Lucy McBath. And she is in Congress, and one of her sole purposes is to change the gun laws in the United States. Her son was killed by a white supremacist who had guns and was able to shoot at him and his friends in their car because they were playing music. And she's led a campaign mobilizing other mothers, mobilizing policymakers, and mobilizing people to the polls to not only flip the district that she ran in, but to also support her in her agenda to reform United States gun laws. So we're hoping to line up behind Lucy McBath, have her back, have her sides, have her front, and push common sense gun laws in the United States. It's beyond time, and we know that it's probably going to take a woman and a mom like Lucy to do it. I'm Monifa Bandele. I'm a Senior Vice President at MomsRising, and we are a national public policy organization fighting for the rights and health and well-being of women and mothers all across the nation. Everyone can join MomsRising. There's two criteria. You either have to be a mom or have had a mom. One of the main reasons that we mobilized women and mothers to the polls was to put in place people who will stop the Trump administration. Right now, Congress is all that stands between, the Trump administration and the people. And so we had to make sure that we had people in those seats that represent our communities. And immigration is one of those key issues that we're hoping that the new Congress can find solutions to make sure that people who are protected, who are coming seeking asylum, people who are currently in the country on TPS are supported and protected, and of course to find a permanent solution for people who are a part of the DACA program. So we knew we had to take out some of the Trump followers that were in Congress. And not only do we have a great number of women in Congress, but many of them have taken over the seats of people in Congress who were supporting Trump's horrible policies on immigration. Voter suppression is rampant. We had a major Get Out the Vote campaign in the state of Georgia where women and moms turned out in record numbers. And yet, I think the numbers right now are about 300,000 votes were suppressed in a race that was really tight, that was only called with about a 20,000 vote margin. Provisional ballots weren't counted, polling sites were closed, and people were illegally purged from the voting rolls through claims that they had moved out of the state when they hadn't. And so, this is very disheartening, but we continue to fight. We know it's very important for each and every person to vote in every election, and I think we're turning the tide. This midterm election, almost half of the people who can vote, of the electorate, voted, and that's just record-breaking. We usually have somewhere around 25%. And whenever I talk to people from other places, they're also shocked by our low voter turnout. But we're working on it every day. Many people have faced discrimination. Either they faced it personally or their parents, and so there becomes a culture within the community or within the home that it doesn't pay to vote or that they'll be unable to vote. So we've really got to go door by door. Another thing that's important to point out is that many states in the United States have what we call felony disenfranchisement laws, which means that people who have former convictions are also banned from voting. In a place like Florida, it meant 1.5 million people couldn't vote, were banned from voting for life because they had a former felony conviction. And so those laws are being turned around now state by state. In fact, Florida, there was an Amendment 4 on the ballot that won that will give an opportunity for those 1.4 million people to register to vote. But these are some of the many ways that people are banned from voting. And every time you ban and prevent someone from voting, there's a collateral consequence that their neighbors and their children and other members of their family also will not vote. It's never just that one person. It almost creates a culture of fear and a feeling of marginalization that really permeates throughout that person's circle. So we're fighting, chipping away at the many ways that votes are suppressed, knowing that that will increase turnout even amongst people who aren't technically suppressed. I'm doing this work because this is what I was raised to do. I come from a family of generations of activists. My grandparents were activists, my parents were social workers and activists, and they basically raised us to make sure that whatever work we did, it didn't just benefit ourselves, that it benefit the community, and that we also raise our children to be socially conscious and to make sure that their work reaches beyond their own homes. Like I said, both my parents were social workers and community activists. My father was a member of the Black Panther Party here in New York City. And so we were raised with the understanding that we had to create the future that we wanted for ourselves and for our children. And so I carry that tradition, personally. My husband's also an activist and works at a nonprofit, and our teenagers are very engaged in their schools. And so, we are definitely personally touched by some of the issues. My maternal grandmother lost her life because of the segregated healthcare system in South Texas. And my mom, actually, as a young person, watched her mother, when she was dying, be turned away from a hospital when she needed care. And so we do have very personal connections to these issues of healthcare, voter suppression, mass incarceration, but we're also raised in a family where we were taught that it was our responsibility to change the outcomes that we were experiencing. Well, speaking on behalf of myself and not MomsRising, I think that it is high time that we had a Black woman in the White House. I think there are enough candidates out there. There are people like Senator Kamala Harris. There are people like the candidate that ran for governor of Georgia, Stacey Abrams, and many, many fighters in Congress who have always done a huge amount of work, typically are not allowed to be the face of the party, but always have been the backbone of the party, that now it's time for a Black woman to be the face of the party. I think it'd be wonderful in 2020 to have a leader like the person we've seen in Stacey Abrams, who's been very vigilant in the work that she's done in the state of Georgia. I think between now and 2020, she's going to work to change many of the laws that suppress the votes that helped to steal the governorship from her. So I think she'd be an excellent candidate, and she's also one of my schoolmates from Spelman College.